Welcome back once again to Viper Bytes. And we've got a special edition of the show today. We're going to still give you your Sunday night preview, a little bit of Sunday night football, but we're going to put a little bit of a spin on. We're kind of running a little bit of a pilot episode here. Each and every week, we're going to try to pick one of these matchups: Thursday night football, Monday night football, Sunday night football, some kind of night football. And we're going to put a little bit of a pop culture spin on it, kind of go back in time to some of our favorite movies that we may have even forgotten about already, and kind of apply them to the games that we're about to see. Now, I thought it was fitting that with all the internet buzz being generated right now of a new and upcoming 2020 version of the Super Mario Brothers, they're kicking off. Jack Black, he's going to be in there voicing someone, Chris Pratt, Seth Rogen, Charlie Day, Keegan Micheal Key, as well as many others. You know what? Their hype is right there. It dropped on the internet. I saw it on my Twitter, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be so exciting. We're going to get the Super Mario Bros. Back. Yes. And then I remembered, you know what? We were also extremely excited about the 2021 version of the Packers and the 49ers and this week 3 matchup as Aaron Rodgers heads back home to face his childhood team in the San Francisco 49ers as they square up in what could be a preview of the NFC Championship. Now, I know I'm excited for this matchup, especially considering you take this back a little bit, and we just finished watching the Panthers and the Texans go at it on Thursday Night Football, but part of me just can't help but shake this weird vibe, this weird feeling I'm getting for this Packers and 49ers matchup. It's kind of taking me back to 1993 and that version of the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, it was a box office flop. We know it did. It didn't generate any revenue, but you know what? It kind of became a pop culture cult classic type of movie there. This version of the Super Mario Brothers had Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo, and Dennis Hopper. They all kind of played a part in that, and they scored a whopping 28% on Rotten Tomatoes. Then again, Deebo Samuel, he's got a 35.7% target share on 20 targets out of the 56 total, and Devontae Adams, 25.8% target share. That's 16 targets of the 62. So take that, Rotten Tomatoes. We've got a matchup here between the Packers and the 49ers. Now, before we get into the actual matchup, let me give you a little bit of a synopsis of the film that happened back in 1993. For those who don't quite recall what happened or what it was about, it was kind of a little bit of, we got the Super Mario Brothers. We've got a creative ability to do some stuff. They kind of went off track a little bit, but here's a quick little breakdown. I'll save you the part where an egg falls on someone and it hatches and pop comes a baby girl. I'll fast forward more to a present day when we're talking about this, where we'll call Mario, we'll comp him to Jimmy Garoppolo. Why? Because he's wearing red. Luigi, we'll put him to Aaron Rodgers. Why? Because he's wearing green. It makes it really easy. Red is Mario, green is Luigi, Packers are green, 49ers are red. Easy right there. Now, they're chilling out. They're hanging out in Brooklyn. They're doing their thing. They've got their own little plumbing business going on. It's not really doing a whole heck of a lot. And then, you know what? Boom. They're not meeting expectations, much like the 49ers. We're not seeing the 49ers that we expected to begin the season. The Packers haven't reached their potential that we were expecting them. We saw what happened to them in week 1 against the New Orleans Saints. That was not the Packers team that we expected to come out of it. Even against the Lions, you look at some of these numbers a little bit later that we'll discuss, they haven't reached the expectation that we placed on them. Much like Mario and Luigi, they were just kind of chilling, just doing the regular plumbing thing with greatness still to come. Now, Luigi, he's kind of chilling out. He's going on a little bit of a walkabout there, so to speak. Boom, he bumps into Daisy. Daisy digging up bones under the Brooklyn Bridge. That's not even the weird part yet, but we'll talk a little bit more. Anyway, they kind of start, Luigi basically starts dating this bone digger. We won't put that reference into where you can kind of interpret that how you wish too. But basically, Daisy is Randall Cobb to Aaron Rodgers. But we just haven't felt that connection. In the movie, the connection was kind of there. You could see that, they kind of liked each other, but didn't really like each other, but they really liked each other. But at the end, they couldn't be together. That's kind of like how Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb so far this season's been. Aaron Rodgers wanted Randall Cobb. The Packers got him Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb hasn't been used yet. So just kind of putting that analogy out there. Now, when we take a look at this, two goons, they kind of show up there. They start bursting pipes. I think it was Iggy and Spike. They start smashing these pipes, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's convenient that both Mario and Luigi happen to be plumbers, and they start to repair these pipes. And fast forward a little bit, and also we get this interdimensional chase going on. They enter this interdimensional realm. We'll call that San Francisco for lack of a better term. Basically, they're going from Brooklyn to San Francisco. The Packers are going over to San Francisco. That's where this matchup's taking place. So let's use that analogy. I know it's a bit of a reach, but we're going to use it anyway. Now, remember that girl that kind of had that popped out of an egg? Well, apparently that's Daisy, and this is kind of her home. You know, she's kind of almost partial dinosaur, which kind of makes it really weird that Luigi was into a dinosaur. And you know what? We won't even go there. It kind of blows your mind. I guess it's kind of a sci-fi kind of thing. But I compared Daisy to Randall Cobb. Maybe it's because Randall Cobb is a bit of a dinosaur because at this point of his career, he's basically extinct. Now, fast forward some more. We are going to eventually get Manhattan turned into Dino Hatton or something like that, where Mario defeats Koopa, just like Garoppolo defeated the Eagles. Rodgers, he gets it right. He defeats the Lions. And, well, Mario did the hard stuff. He had the bigger matchup. And where Luigi basically, all he did was pull some sort of meteor fragment out, and all of a sudden that kind of saved his thing. People cheered. Everyone was happy. It kind of gives Packers fans and even fantasy managers that false sense of security. You're like, okay, you know what? Rodgers had a rough week in week 1 against the Saints. But you know what? He got it right in week 2. But did he really? It was against the Lions defense. So people are applauding Aaron Rodgers. They're excited about what he's been able to do in week 2. But should we really be getting that excited about what Rodgers happened to post up against the Lions, those 4 touchdowns? A little bit of a deeper dive into those numbers shows that, you know what? Pump those brakes. Now, how is this even remotely tying in between the Packers and the 49ers match of Super Mario Brothers 1993? We are all expecting this to be something special. I know back in 1993, I was just a kid. I was playing these video games, and we were all of a sudden getting a video game on the big screen. Nowadays, kids watch other kids play video games all the time on YouTube, and it's kind of a thing. But back then, it didn't happen. You were seeing your video game characters come to life. Your heroes, to a degree, come to life on the big screen. Now, I remember being so hyped up about this. I was going to get an opportunity to watch, kind of like I'm really excited about 2022, which really should kind of maybe I should learn my lesson here going into the 2022 version of Super Mario Brothers. But I remember just being so excited, and the movie not quite living up to my expectations that I had placed upon it as a young child. Now, truth is, if we are thinking that this is going to be an awesome fantasy game, the reality is it's probably not going to be a big explosion of fantasy points for fantasy managers. It's going to have an opportunity to be a very good game, maybe a cult classic, where we can look back on, you know, that was a good game. There's a lot of good things that we could pull out of there. But I'm just telling you, temper your expectations right now going into this matchup. I don't think we're going to see the fireworks that we are led to believe right now. I know on our Vipercast show that we just did, we got excited. Major did a little bit of a preview there, I believe, of the Green Bay Packers, San Francisco 49ers, and how this could be a very explosive game. But temper those expectations. Now, like I said, there's parts that are going to be good. There's parts that are going to be absolutely terrible in this matchup. But I beg you to try and remember back in 1993. Can you recall any of those parts in that movie that you're like, that was an awesome part of the movie? That's what I remember about that movie. Probably not. You're probably going to have to go back now and watch it and rewatch it. And you know what? I bet you'll enjoy it when you watch it. When you put on that tape of the Packers in a couple weeks, 3 weeks, next season, depending on what side of the scoreboard you're on, you're probably going to enjoy this as a football fan, maybe not as a fantasy football manager. Now, let's dive in a little bit here to some player comps. We've already talked about Rodgers being Luigi and Garoppolo being Mario. That was easy. That was low-hanging fruit. I just kind of did a little bit of color matching. But you know what? Who's going to be Yoshi? You know what? Yoshi, is that going to be a Trey Lance? Is it going to be Brandon Ayuk? You know, kind of a supporting cast kind of guy that didn't really have a huge part. But once they stepped on that field, they had the opportunity to make a difference and captivated the audience in a little bit of a display of when they were on there. Now we take a look at, and they've got the guitar wielding Toad. Maybe that turns into Robert Tunyon. Toad helped Mario, helped Luigi, kind of save the whole universe or the dimensions or whatnot. You know what? Robert Tunyon can be that guy for Aaron Rodgers. He's a guy we're not talking about. He's produced last year, but we kind of forget about him this year, and rightfully so. He hasn't really done a whole heck of a lot. But you know what? This is his time to grab that guitar, swing it around, and play a little music here, and kind of maybe save the Packers and get them to 2-1. Now, we'll flip this thing around a little bit here because I like to talk a little bit of IDP. But maybe my favorite character in the 1993 version of the Super Mario Bros. Was Goomba. Now, why are you saying Goomba? Goomba's like a little mushroom, man. In the video games, he's just a tiny little guy. But in the movie, they jacked him right up. I mean, big body, big guy, maybe not the smartest guy, big shoulders, neck, great neck. You know what, for fantasy Twitter, you guys, Goomba has that neck measurements that you're looking for. But he kind of gives me that kind of Nick Bosa type feel. He's lethal and he's loyal to that 49ers army. And he's an absolute beast. So maybe Goomba is the Nick Bosa of this matchup. Now, we got to take a look at some of these injuries. We'll talk about how this is going to affect the game a little bit later on. But injuries, Elijah Mitchell, he is doubtful. He's dealing with that shoulder injury right now. Trey Sermon, probable. Looks like he's trending in the right direction, coming back from that concussion. Jermichael Hasty, he's out. He's already been ruled out. This 49ers backfield is not looking good. I mean, they've got some injuries there. They're bringing in guys like Trenton Cannon and Kerryon Johnson, and these guys might actually get a little bit of run this week, which is really surprising because they basically have come off the streets in the 49ers lineup, and they're going to play some kind of factor into it when we get down to her. Now, let's give you guys some football talk here. We've talked a little bit about the Mario Bros, and we've talked about how this is going to shape out, but Deebo Samuel is the only 49er producing, and you got to think that's going to slow down. Kittle has 9 targets through the first 2 games. Ayuk and Kittle are at some point going to cut into Deebo Samuel's insane target share. We mentioned that thing being nearly 36%. That can't be maintained. It won't be maintained. So when you start to spread that out, you can kind of bring that Deebo Samuel fantasy production down a little bit. Maybe it becomes more effective or more efficient. That's to be seen, but less opportunity spread out a little bit more to George Kittle, a little more to Brandon Ayuk eventually. Hopefully Ayuk can get right, but that's going to spell a little bit of a down turn on Deebo Samuel. But you know what? Let's give the little Koopa Troopa here a little bit of respect here. Deebo Samuel, his last 6 full games that he's played, 5+ catches and 65+ yards in each and every one of those games. Now, we talked about Sermon being on that path. We talked about Mitchell not being that guy. We'll throw in Kerryon Johnson, and you have no clue what's going to happen in this 49ers backfield. There is no way you can decipher who's going to get some fantasy points. You can't play anyone in this backfield. Maybe you take a risk on Trey Sermon. Maybe that's an opportunity, but I can't do it. We're expecting fantasy fireworks, but I don't see it going to be there. I don't see how it's going to be there. Now, when we take into account, like I said, Samuel accounts for 282 of the 508 passing yards to date for the 49ers. That's 55.5%. Now, the Packers, while not really facing any wide receivers of note, have yet to yield much in the passing game outside of Quintus Cephas. There's 4 catches, 63 yards, and 1 touchdown. A lot of that was in garbage time in week 2. We know the Packers played the Saints in week 1. Not a whole lot of explosiveness out of that wide receiver group there either. But the Packers do give up that 97.5 rushing yards per game, that 4.3 yards per carry. But then again, I mentioned, look at that 49ers backfield. There is nothing there to ride home about. You know what I mean? There's nothing there. There's opportunities there for fantasy points, but I think it's going to be so diluted that there's nothing that's going to help managers make a conscious decision to get value out of that. Now, with the 49ers, when we're taking a look at Rodgers and what his possibility of success is going to be, the 49ers held Jalen Konami Code Hurts. See what I did there? I throw Konami Code, talk about Nintendo, talk about Super Mario Bros. Hurts to 99 yards outside of that 91-yard pass and catch from Quez Watkins last week. Yes, the 49ers secondary can be suspect at time, but I don't know where Rodgers is right now. We're going to talk about that when I talk a little bit more about the Packers. But you know what? if you take into account also that Jalen Reagor got loose, if he didn't accidentally or allegedly step out of bounds before catching that pass, you're looking at another big time reception, padding up those stats, padding up those receiving numbers. But right now, looking at the stats, the 49ers have been pretty good when it comes to defending that at this point. Now, Rodgers and Adams are amongst the best in the league, but they haven't been playing that way so far. A deeper dive into that 49ers passing game in particular shows that, you know what, it's been Adam and Jones, and that's it. I mentioned Adams' target share. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Aaron Jones also comes in with 8% of that target share, and is the only player to find the end zone. Well, okay, Robert Tonyan did get a touchdown too, but Adam Jones has 3 of the 4 Aaron Rodgers passing touchdowns, plus he's found it on the ground as well. And they all came against the Detroit Lions. All of them. Every touchdown, Detroit Lions. Not saying a whole heck of a lot. So again, temper those expectations. That's kind of the theme of this. Don't get too excited about something that you're excited about, Super Mario Bros., like this game, because I'm telling you, there is a lot of potential to be disappointed in this outcome. Now, when we look at how that's kind of gone, 465 yards passing. That's including Jordan Love through the 2 games there. Jones and Adams, Aaron Jones and Davante Adams have accumulated 238 of those passing yards. Robert Tonyan has 60 of those as well. It's really hard to find those fantasy points. If Rodgers and Adams aren't getting on that same page, we're going to be disappointed. And when we take a look at that, when Rodgers is targeting Davante Adams so far this season, maybe it's because Rodgers missed a lot of time during camp. He was playing Jeopardy, and maybe he was playing some Super Nintendo or some Nintendo, playing a little whatever. He's only got an 86.7 passer rating when targeting Davante Adams in the early going through 2 weeks. Now, Rodgers was 22 of 27 for only 255 yards against the Lions. We saw that explosive output. We've seen the numbers that they put up, but 255 yards is not crying fantasy points explosion to me. It's not. Now, yes, he did miss Valdez-Scantling a couple occasions there. That could have been big plays, but it didn't happen. The timing was off. The throw was a little off. The catch, whatever it is, it's just not clicking for the Packers right now. And I don't know if this is the week for it to get clicking. Now, if we run this thing back, let's run this thing back to last season. Aaron Jones, he's off to a good start. We talked about what he's done already, but last year against these 49ers, this was a team that wasn't very good last year, or in the standings, they weren't very successful. Let's put it that way. We look at it, and Aaron Jones, he went for 58 rushing yards on 15 carries, and he only added 21 more yards on 5 receptions head-to-head against the 49ers last year. Again, does not scream fantasy points explosion. And one more thing, like I said, I guess we talk about that completion percentage to Adams. I guess the good news is he's probably drawing Josh Norman this week. And raise your hand if you actually thought Josh Norman was still playing in the National Football League, because he hasn't been the Josh Norman of old for quite some time. Now, like I said, I want to bring this all back here because the main purpose of this whole thing is we're talking about the tying in between the Super Mario Bros. And how excited it was. We were to get to watch this. We thought it was going to be something great. Well, this 49ers and Packers, as fantasy enthusiasts, we're expecting fireworks. We're expecting this to be a great game as far as statistically speaking goes. I want to make sure that you understand that we could be in for disappointment if those expectations are too high on this game. I think it's going to be a great football game. I think you're going to see, the Packers defense step up. I think the 49ers defense is going to step up. I think Bosa or Goomba is going to be in the backfield chasing Rodgers more often than not. But like I said, when it all comes down to it, I think it's going to be a better football game than it is a fantasy football game, if you know what I'm saying. So I hope you enjoy this. We're going to try and drop this at least once a week, kind of a little bit of a movie / football game comp here. Check me out there at Matt Donnelly FF. You can catch that on Twitter. You can head over to dynastyvipers.com. Make sure you're checking out the Vipercast every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And head over to Fantasy Points when you get an opportunity to do so. Get yourself that subscription. 21 Vipers 10 will get you 10% off. And if you want to know where I'm coming up with my numbers and my stats, it's all coming from Fantasy Points. And you should get that too. If you want to win your leagues, make sure you go to fantasypoints.com. Until next time, we'll see you later.